Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I am Ewan, aka the Draft Monster. Today I'm getting started on the 2024 AFL Fantasy period. It's early, but I'm getting keen. I'm getting really keen. Today I'm going to be going through the best players from the recent trade period who got traded, which ones are going to be relevant for their new team in 2024. It's going to be a really exciting time for these guys, and yeah, I reckon a few of them are going to pop. So let's get into it. So the first one off the bat here is the biggest one of the trade period, I reckon, and that is Brodie Grundy. So Brodie Grundy was at the Collingwood Magpies 2 years ago, and then last year, or this year, sorry, 2023, he was at the Melbourne Demons helping out with Max Gawn. Anyone that knew Brodie Grundy in 2018, 2019 will probably know that he was anointed as a fantasy pig. He was unstoppable. He had no kind of competition at the Pies. He was just a big midfielder that was running around. The athleticism of this guy is crazy. So he's a really unique ruckman. And last year was a bit of a, you could say it was like a bit of a gap year for him because he went to Melbourne with Max Gawn, and Max Gawn pretty much does all the ruck work there. There's no real need for someone of Grundy's caliber to even be there. And yeah, he didn't fit into the Melbourne Demons culture whatsoever. And it was evident by, their pretty dismal year on the whole. And Grundy was barely really a part of it. He got subbed out. He got dropped. He was in the VFL. So he decided he's off to the Swans. He is off to Sydney for another fresh start. He's only 29, and as far as ruckman go, that's not old. He's just broken out, So he's still got a bit to give, I reckon. And not only that, but Sydney has been dying for a ruckman for a while. So they've gone through a fair few in the last few years. Their most recent one, Tom Hickey, just retired. So there's a big gap there. There was the thought that maybe Peter Ladhams would be breaking out this year, but with Grundy coming in, I'm sorry, Peter, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be, unless you can learn to mark and kick goals a bit better for a big guy, but I think Peter Ladhams is going to struggle next year because, Grundy is going to fill that hole. He's going to be fantastic in the middle, I reckon. He has a plethora of midfielders around him, and Sydney was really busy in the trade period, so there's heaps and heaps of midfielders in there now. We'll get to that a little bit later. And there's just the grass is greener on the other side for Grundy. He's really going to be a big fish in a tiny ruck or big man pond in Sydney. So I really think it's going to be hard to see him not going above 100 next year. I think 100 plus average for 2024 easily. Hopefully he can get back to that 2018, 2019 form. Because he was unreal. He was just a big midfielder who would get 30 plus hit outs a game, and probably kick a goal. So yes, he is a pig. He is an exciting one for Sydney next year, an exciting one in the drafts. Grundy will definitely be going round one in a lot of draft leagues next year, I'd imagine. And if he's there in round two, get on top of that. All right, so the next one I want to talk about is a young man who just travelled from Fremantle to St Kilda, and that is young Liam Henry. He is a superstar on the up. He was the number 9 draft pick in 2019. He was averaging 109 fantasy points for that year, just in his under 18 year. So we did see a lot more midfield time for Liam Henry last year. We definitely saw a spike in his fantasy scores about halfway through the year. I don't think he went under 72. He had a really good floor for the second half of 2023, and he had a few tons as well. So he did ton up a fair bit, and he did get amongst it. Now on the move to St Kilda will be really, really interesting because what you got? Jack Sinclair, Brad Crouch, Jack Steele, and that's really about it. You got Paddy Dow, also the other one coming in. Apart from that, that's really all the midfielders that I can see getting, amongst it in the St Kilda midfield. And with Jack Billings leaving, Jade Gresham also leaving, there's definitely a big opportunity for players like Liam Henry to take advantage. And he did show it at the end of this year. He is just an athlete, a very, very quick, nimble midfielder, just gets amongst it. What is he, 22? So prime breakout age, you'd think. It's going to be his 5th year in the league. So, potential in a new club. You never know with people shifting to a new club. It could just be the spur they need to really pop. If he hopefully retains that forward status. I don't think he kicked a lot of goals for Fremantle last year. So, he might not be forward, but we'll wait and see. He might get forward status there as well. All right, so the third guy I want to talk about here is a guy that I think is really going to break out this year, and it's going to be because of a fantastic change of scene for him. I'm talking about Jordan Sweet, and he is the big man from the Bulldogs. Last year and last few years, he has been second fiddle to Tim English, the best ruckman in the league last year. So being second fiddle to the best ruckman in the league has a lot of downfalls. I don't know if he played many games, if any, last year, but he did play a lot of VFL. And he killed it in the VFL last year. I think he got like 103, 104 fantasy points average in the VFL last year. He was definitely the best ruckman in the VFL. He's on the way to Port Adelaide, which is very, very interesting because of the recent Scott Lysette retiring. Scott Lysette wasn't doing a whole lot for the Power, but he was holding down the fort and he was their main guy, so they went with him every week. But he's gone. He is gone. So what's next? What's next for the Power? Well, Jordan Sweet is a big man. He is a big dude. I can see him really trying to take on that number one spot when he gets to Port Adelaide. The only interesting thing would be that Port Adelaide really went for the big, tall guys in their trade period that just happened. They also picked up Ivan Soldo from Richmond and Asava Radaglia from the Cats. But as far as ruckmen go, I would still have to say Jordan Sweet is like the purest ruckman of those three. Not only that, but Jordan Sweet is from South Australia. He's going home. I think he's going to be really happy at Port Adelaide. I think, they're going to really want to use him, and I think he's going to be a fan favourite by the end of 2024. As far as drafts go, I think he's going to be a big slider. I don't think a lot of people are going to think much of him. We're not going to know until a lot later in the preseason. Maybe even not till he might not get his break till early on in the season. But remember how well he was doing in VFL, and to be behind Tim English for so long. He is a good ruckman. He's a really good ruckman. Hopefully he gets his shot. Hopefully he can make an impact, and I'd love to see him break out. All right, so number 4 I've got on my list today is Jack Billings, who has made his way to the Demons from the Saints. Jack Billings is a former was he, number 3 draft pick from 2013. So he's been in the league a while, and he's shown us glimpses. He's shown us seasons where he has shown that potential. He was picked before Bontempelli. I think the Saints passed up on Bontempelli, ended up at the Dogs. Bont's gone on to have a much more decorated career, obviously, at this point. Jack Billings has been stricken by injuries. He never found that fit at St Kilda, even back early days when he was drafted. And then, people like Jack Steele, Brad Crouch, now Liam Henry, a whole bunch of others coming into the Saints, and they've made their mark there. And he hasn't. Billings never did. He had a couple of good years. I think it was 2017 and 19. He had, 90 plus average in fantasy and 22 games played. And they were, oh, yes, that was good. But recently, and apart from those 2 years and 10 years, he's had 8 very lackluster years. Also injury-prone years. He's been, on and off the park with all sorts of things. So he's a little bit made of glass. And you think he should just get his break at this point. Everyone said, "Oh yeah, Jack Billings, he's gonna make his mark," and he does. But then off he goes for 10, 12 weeks, and comes back. I think he broke a thumb midway through this year, just gone. I think he was off the field again. So I really hope the Demons can get him right, I guess. Get him on the field. As far as what the Demons need, they need a small forward like Jack Billings. They just didn't have that goal pressure this year that they had in 2021. That pressure, that goal, just knack for getting the goal. I just didn't see it this year. I saw Gawn take a lot of marks in the forward 50, but he's not the most accurate. You need someone that can kick goals. Jack Billings isn't as tall as Gawn, but he can jump. He can get up there for the mark. He can kick it between the sticks from almost anywhere as well when he's on the park. I hope he can reignite his career, because it'd be really disappointing to see him fade away. And I'm glad he's left St Kilda, and I hope the Demons can get him on the park and get him in the middle as well. He's good in the middle. He's good up forward. All right, so I'm going to talk about 2 players now who both made the move to Sydney. So we're going to talk about Taylor Adams, and we're going to talk about James Jordan. Firstly, Taylor Adams is he's a mature age player. He's 30, 31. He's been at Collingwood ever since he was traded there back in 2014, I want to say. And he has gone on to have a fantastic career at Collingwood. The only downside to his career has been himself. Like Jack Billings and like a lot of players, his body has failed him. Collingwood just won that grand final. Everyone was loving it. Collingwood fans were having a great time. And the only Collingwood player or fan who wasn't having the best time was Taylor Adams. He was so sad, because he's been such a big part of Collingwood for his 10-year time there, and he just couldn't make it to the grand final. His body let him down again, and you could see it. You could see it in the grand final how disappointed he was. So he's off for a fresh start. He's off to Sydney. And that's really interesting. Swans have promised him midfield time, but you've just got to think like how many midfielders Sydney has at this point. So they've got Errol Goulden, Luke Parker, who'll probably get pushed forward a bit, Chad Warner, James Rowbottom, just added Taylor Adams. There's 5. Who else have we got? James Jordan's coming in. Caden Cleary is coming up through their academy this year. They've got a few players running through the middle there, and they're all good. They're all really good. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Adams can go there. Will he get back to his form of old, where I think one year he averaged 110, and a lot of years he's right up there in the late 90s, I think. He just can't, yeah, he needs to get on the park for 22 games. Are we going to see that? Wait and see. I hope so. I really hope we do. But will he see as much of the ball as he used to? I don't know. Yeah, he's been around 10 years. You can see the stats for yourself. He is a gun. He has been a gun. He gets the tons when you need it, but he also, yeah, he falls apart as well. So Taylor Adams in the red and white instead of the black and white. I'm all for it. I reckon it's going to be good for him. I just hope he can stay on the park. That's all. And then, yeah, James Jordan is the other one. So James Jordan has come over from the Demons. He was finding it pretty tough to stay in the team, I guess. I think he was a substitute a lot the last little time, or got subbed out, or... yeah, it was always on the cusp of the Demons' best 22. Now he's off to Sydney as well to join all of these midfielders. There's a lot of midfielders in Sydney. He's shown flashes. He's still young. He's only 22, 23. And yeah, James Jordan has shown flashes in the pan at the Demons when he has been given the shot. We know that Sydney, John Longmire, likes to play the kids. He loves to play Errol Goulden, not even 22, and a absolute superstar already. So it's interesting to see what will happen at Sydney next year. I really hope James Jordan gets a piece of it. Another one here I've got to look at is Matthew Flynn at West Coast. So Matthew Flynn has been the second, third ruckman at GWS Giants since he was drafted there. So he's been battling behind Braden Pruce and Kieran Briggs for a spot as the main ruckman the last few years. So he's used to fighting it out. And now he's off to West Coast, where, as most of us should know, that they have been in a little bit of strife the last few years. But a shining light at the West Coast Eagles was Bailey Williams. His ruck work was pretty good. Now they are in the official post-Nick Natanui era, so no more Nick Nat, so opportunities galore for some big men at West Coast. Yeah, I just feel like Matthew Flynn, he's used to fighting it out. He is, a mature age ruckman now. He's prime breakout ruckman age. Also, ruckmen tend to break out a little bit later. And yeah, I can really see him filling a hole at West Coast. And Bailey Williams was like the backup. He was there. But is it who West Coast really wanted in the in the ruck? I don't know. Seems like they're making a play to get someone in there, and it looks like it's Matt Flynn. Yeah, you never know with ruckman. They could break out, or they could be, pretty dire. So wait and see. Keep a track on Matthew Flynn for West Coast over the preseason. All right. So also want to make a couple of notes about two more guys. So one is Nick Caulfield. Okay. First up, he hasn't played an AFL game in 2 years. So he's been a bit injured. I think he's played some VFL. And he was drafted, I think, 4 years ago. So in those first 2 years, he did play a bit of footy. And he looked good. For such a young guy at like 19, 20, to be kicking in the way he was taking kick-ins, he was taking marks, he was getting junk in the defense. Personally, I remember seeing him being like, yeah, this guy's made for it. He's just a solid-looking defender. And we haven't seen him in 2 years. Yeah, that might be on the Saints for not playing him or not getting his body right, or just unlucky, I guess, not to get on the park. Can he get a role at the Doggies? That'd be cool. I reckon there's definitely a spot for him in the back six, working alongside Bailey Dale and Caleb Daniel. Alex Keith is down there. If you see Caulfield throughout the preseason, keep an eye on him. Let's see if he can break into the 22. I'd love to see him break into the 22. Just a slick moving defender. and one that, yeah, I reckon on draft day early next year, yeah, get him on your bench. Have a look at him. See how he goes in the red, white, and blue. I reckon could be in for a surprise with Nick Coffield. And the last one I'm going to talk about today is Dossie's favourite man in the world, Paddy Dow. So Paddy Dow was the number 3 draft pick in 2017. He was like the premier kind of on-baller in that draft class, but nothing really ever happened at Carlton. I think I remember him losing a tooth and, yeah, being the sub and getting dropped and playing VFL a lot. And, yeah, not getting much of a go. I reckon he's definitely a look for this year. I know people were saying it last year, and when someone gets hyped so much and then doesn't do anything, it's hard to get any hype the next year. But you got to put that behind you. He's off to St Kilda. Not traditionally a fantastic fantasy team, but with the midfield that they have, as I said, with Liam Henry, you got Jack Steele, Jack Sinclair, Brad Crouch, Liam Henry, Paddy Dow, 5th, maybe even the 4th midfielder in there. He's got potential. He does have potential, and it's going to be hard to admit, but it's going to happen. Paddy Dow will one day average pretty well in fantasy, and he might even make it onto your starting lineup. Maybe. Who knows? But I found that him moving to St Kilda is just interesting to me, because another one that I reckon, will benefit a lot from a fresh start. So yeah, that is a few players that I've thought of from the recent trade periods that I reckon will have some relevance in AFL Fantasy next year. And yeah, we'll be updating this a lot. We'll be going through a lot over the next few months. AFL Fantasy is not back yet, but we can think about it. We can think about it and ponder. But yes, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope I've given you a little bit of insight, getting you a little bit ready and excited for next year, 2024 AFL Fantasy. If you found it useful, or if you'd like to see some more AFL Fantasy draft content, we're ramping up for 2024, so hit that subscribe button below and stay tuned, because we're going to really get into it the next few weeks and getting excited. So see you in the next video. Bye.